Hello, and welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm Karen Stevens, your host for this evening. Tonight is all about dance. But first, let's meet our panel. Miss Iris Acker, who is an actress, writer, and the producer of Spotlight on the Arts. Mr. Bill Hirschman, theater critic and chief editor for FloridaTheaterOnStage.com. And filling in for our usual panelist, Mr. Michael McKeever, is playwright and actor Jay Stewart. And our guest tonight is Mr. Daniel Lewis, who is a choreographer and teacher, among many other things, which we'll talk about in just a moment. Welcome, Daniel.
My pleasure to be here.
It is very good to have you here. So, first off, you have been, I have to read my card here to read all of the things that you do and have done in your illustrious career. You've been a choreographer, an author, teacher, dean of dance at New School World of the Arts. Can you add to that list, please, for our viewing audience?
Well, I think, first of all, I was a dancer first.
Mm-hmm.
At age 5, I was a tap dancer. I just loved dancing. It was natural to me. I'm privileged that I found what I liked at age 5. I don't know how many kids at age 5 know what they like. And it's interesting because I found it just by chance, because I was born with a club foot, turned in, and the doctor said, send him to tap dancing school. I ended up in a school where I got to admit I was the only guy, so I felt sort of special, with 30 girls. Later on, that became very important. At 5, it didn't really work. Being special was important at age 5. Things changed later on. And I actually loved what I was doing. My parents sent my 2 brothers. They lasted a week. And I lasted now almost 60 years.
That is amazing. Who would think that tap dancing would be therapy for a club foot, but it actually makes so much sense.
Well, it's more than just the club foot got me there and fixed the foot.
And fixed the foot.
But I found my voice. I found how I could speak best, how I can really express myself. I was never good in school. English was not my language. I'm not a good writer, although I've written several books, but my publishers always say, I'm an author, I'm not a writer. They have people that correct the spelling and do all that. I found a voice that I could really communicate with and felt so good afterwards. The physicalness of dancing is just so wonderful.
Yes, and it is, like music, a universal language.
Absolutely.
And so you went from tap on to study other forms of dance, obviously. Can you talk about that?
Well, I can tell you how I got involved. I was going to be a Broadway dancer with tap dance. It was going to be my thing.
Why not?
And a couple of things changed that. First of all, I never carried a dance bag. Growing up in Brooklyn, you didn't carry a dance bag. I carried an attaché case with my dance belt and my tights and my leotard and walked around like a businessman. Got into the studio, opened the attaché case, put everything on. I was a different person. It was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And then one day I did the Merry Mailman show. I did a couple of other TV shows, and all of a sudden the guys in my junior high school saw me on TV. My life changed. I was now La Twinkle Toes. I was getting beat up. They were jealous, that I got attention from all the girls, And luckily, at that point in my life, I discovered the High School of Performing Arts, which is the first, what we call magnet schools now.
Yes.
It was the very first one ever done in the country in Manhattan. Luckily, my mom saw an article about it in the paper, and she knew how miserable I was hiding in Brooklyn. And my life changed, and that's where I met Martha Graham, Doris Humphrey, Jose Limon, all the greats.
And adapted their forms of dance.
And decided this is really the best communication I could do. So it was fantastic going to that school. And, and it really made me feel so good when I moved to Miami, because I created another high school of performing arts. It's called the New World School of the Arts, but it went on to college as well, so it was an 8-year program.
Go way back. How many years ago now did New World School?
New World School, this next school year will be the 30th anniversary.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
30th anniversry. And what I love about Mr. Lewis here, Daniel, is that you retired and haven't stopped. Nobody knows you. They made him a dinner.
That's right.
Am I right?
Yeah.
A tribute. And he ignored it because You haven't stopped.
It was a fabulous tribute. We did it at the Gusman. It was packed. Robert Battle, who's now the artistic director of the Alvinelli Company, spoke at it. And he said he wasn't going to accept my retirement. He was smart. I think 2 days after that tribute, my retirement, I was working somewhere, and I didn't look for the work. All of a sudden, the phone started ringing. People heard I was now available because I had said for so many years, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. Running a high school and a college is a full-time job. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And my dream was to retire and maybe just go back and be an artist, choreograph a little, maybe teach a little. Well, I'm on the lecture circuit, I'm choreographing, I'm teaching, I'm writing. I'm right now writing my bio. And I'm also organizing my library, which will go to the University of Florida. We'll house the Daniel Lewis, what's we can call it? It's the Daniel Lewis Research Dance Collection.
Wow. Sounds good to me.
That
Sounds
is
really good.
That is awesome.
So I don't know about retirement.
Oh God, I love tap dancing. It's hard to even find a class today for tap dancing. Oh, I shouldn't say that at night.
You could. There are classes all over
Yeah,
Miami.
but it has to be during the day, and it has to be
yeah.
close to where I live. Other than that, I love it, and I miss it terribly.
Yeah.
Well,
But
it's
I take
good.
other forms.
It's good that you saw the need for that kind of school here. Is obviously, by what you experienced growing up, and it's good for the kids who are headed in that direction to be in that environment where they can learn about their craft and be able to perform. Do you still choreograph?
Yep, I just finished a piece that's going to be performed on with Dance Now, a company in Miami. And I've been staging my ballets all over the world, which is just fun to see your work being done, work you did years ago. All of a sudden it's being done by younger dancers, a whole new crop. Kids that interpret it very differently. I firmly believe no dance can be performed the same way by two different casts.
Absolutely.
It's a whole different world. So you direct it. I can even tell you a quick little story from Jose Limon. I was staging one of his ballets in Israel. And I did a great job. I mean, it was a part of music by Schoenberg, a 20-minute ballet. And Jose came in, he flew in, bring him into the rehearsal. I sat there so proud, to show off what I just did. He looked at the 20-minute ballet and then went ahead and re-choreographed about 4.5 minutes of it. And I'm sitting there, why is he doing this? We went out to dinner that night, and I said, Jose, why did you change that? He said, they did it really well, but they had no ownership. He said, by choreographing something for them specifically, they have ownership of the ballet. He said, watch what happens the next 2 days. I was blown away. And whenever I stage a ballet now, I say, that doesn't look right on you. And I re-choreograph it for them. It makes all the difference because it's just like an actor. You've got to take on the role. It's a role. It's just a physical role rather than a verbal role.
And make it their own.
And make
it's
it their
true.
own.
You do
Right.
make
Yeah.
it your
Yes.
own. Yes.
Absolutely.
I know what you're saying.
Absolutely.
But dance, has it really changed from back then to now?
Oh, it's a whole different world.
Good. Talk to me.
How
Tell me.
so?
Anyone can dance now. There's companies that have 70-year-olds. You have to be 70 or above in Washington, Liz Lerman, to be in the company. You should go join it. Come
Yeah,
on.
Liz Lerman.
I'm over 70.
Such a
I'm thinking
travel,
of doing
where is
it.
Yeah.
Where do I have to go? Washington?
Washington, D.C.
I think I'll stay.
Stay here.
There's even a Facebook group called Dancers Over 40.
40, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 40
I know
is
they
young
do.
for a
40
dance.
is-
Back in the 50s, when you were 40, your career was over.
Oh, yes.
And the big difference now is science.
In what way?
Pilates. They know how to take care of the body. You know what to do with it. You know how to treat it, how to eat it.
Yes.
Food. I mean, at New World, we give kids a menu to say, this is what you should be eating. Now, they don't always do it. They eat
Yeah.
the junk and they eat all
can
the stuff.
suggest it.
Yeah.
But all we do is suggest it, because if you take care of that instrument, a violinist, you break the instrument, you get another one. Dancers, you break the instrument, it is over.
Yeah, and a lot of the thing with dancers and aging is losing muscle. So I think, that in itself is a whole area that, a lot of us aging dancers can be educated about.
Well, it's interesting. Jose Limon danced till he was 64.
Whoa.
He did his last performance at BAM, which is the Brooklyn Academy of Music, of the Morse Pavon, and then retired. And I remember him saying to me and his wife saying to me, and his wife said, oh, let's rephrase that. His wife saying to him, Jose, retire now while people remember you good.
And Merce Cunningham also
did
danced
this,
till he
yes.
was
Really up there.
And Graham. I mean, all of them.
Yeah, well, Graham should have retired a little earlier.
No, but you know, ballerinas, the ballet, they can't. They make it to 40. It's a lot.
It's major. Yeah.
It's just too
they're
demanding.
over the hill by
And I
then,
recently found out at a lecture that the men have to retire sooner than the ladies. Their bodies deteriorate faster than the women.
Yeah, that's true.
It's from all that
Lifting.
holding, I guess.
And they do the big jumps.
Jumps.
Yeah, well.
And it's not the jump that hurts you, it's the
the
landing.
It's the
Right,
standing down.
exactly,
I always
exactly.
felt that every actor must take dance. How about you, Jay, when
Yes.
you were an actor?
Oh yes, yes, and talking about dance, we had discussed Ray Bolger, who was a wonderful tap dancer.
One of my favorite dances.
And that's right. And we were talking before the show, and I worked with Ray on the Happy Time. After they closed on Broadway, Ray Bolger and I went out as father and son on tour. And one night, the Jewish war veterans brought some people to see the show, and they were kind of catatonic. They were severely injured. They could understand what you were saying, but they couldn't respond. So Ray was kidding them to try to get them to laugh, and did nothing. So he switched, he knew it was the Jewish war veterans, he switched to Yiddish. Now, here's an Irishman, and he was kidding them, and they didn't respond anyway. But afterwards, Ray, I said, you're an Irishman, where did you learn Yiddish? He said, I worked in the Yiddish theater when I was 19 years old for a year, and I learned Yiddish. And
There's probably a dancer back then.
It was a dancer back then.
So
And
you
we
were
were
playing
talking,
with him. So you had to dance as well as him?
well, my dancing was not his dancing.
But you danced.
Well, I didn't fall down.
But what's interesting-
What I wanted to finish
Yeah.
was that you worked in the Yiddish theater for 4 years,
years,
which is what
yeah.
brought on our conversation. And
That's
so
right.
I don't know how much Yiddish you ever learned, but you were a kid, I know.
I can tell you, every show I did, I spoke Yiddish. I had no idea what I was saying.
Well,
But they gave me the lines, and I did it. And I did this all the way through high school. We do a show on Friday night, 3 on Saturday, and 1 on Sunday. We had Monday off.
thing.
We learned a new show on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Opened on Friday, 3 shows on Saturday. And it was a show, a movie, a show, and a movie.
Yeah.
And
at the Second Avenue Theater
at the Fillmore and at the Anderson
and the Century Theater.
Century, that's
I
another
worked
one, yeah.
Yiddish theater at the Century Theater.
I worked with a guy
Same
named
schedule.
Mina Byrne and Ben Bonus.
Oh, I knew them both.
Oh, yeah.
yes. But of course, and I was young,
Yeah.
and although I'm Jewish, I can't speak it.
Well,
And so I would start, but mostly I sang and danced in those shows.
Yeah.
So it's singing in any language doesn't make any difference. But yes, so I didn't understand it either.
But what was amazing is I learned more about choreography
From
doing
there?
Yiddish theater.
Why?
Well, they bring in these acts from Poland. I remember one was Max and Rachel Boziak, 2 Czechoslovakian actors. And they did a skit that lasted maybe 6-7 minutes about you're going to visit an aristocrat. And she's trying to teach her husband not to pour the tea into the saucer, put the sugar cube in the mouth.
That's right, yes.
And drink it like this. And she's telling him, you got to hold this like this. And they had to, like this, and you have to balance the cookie here on the dish and hold your fingers like this and drink, you know.
Yes.
And he just can't do it, no matter what he's doing. And at the very end, all of a sudden, he just reaches over, takes 4 sugar cubes, puts them between the fingers, goes like this, and the lights black out. They knew when was the right time to put the punchline. The timing was incredible. They knew just how long they can keep an audience going and what's going to go on, and then hit them with it. And I learned a lot about the timing of choreography and what you need to do with it from Yiddish theater. Yiddish theater was vaudeville. It was the pre-vaudeville.
But you also had to have, one of the things that I admire when I'm looking at a terrific dance production is their acting chops. In other words, it isn't just the physicalization of this is what movement I'm supposed to make then. Can you talk about how you get, when you're teaching, how you get young people who are in dance for the physicalization, how you get them to inhabit a character and tell a story?
That's a great
Because it's about
question.
storytelling.
That's
It's not about
you
movement.
just defined choreography.
Choreography, yeah.
But I think most civilians don't know that.
No.
Then
And there
talk
are
about
several
that.
kinds of dance. There's dance that's pure dance.
Right.
Just enjoy it, and the audience will be inspired by the movement, the acrobats. In it. But then probably the greatest dance I ever danced is the Moors Pavane, choreographed by Jose Limon, where he condensed the story to 4 characters, the Moor, Iago, Desdemona, and Emilia. And it's all told during a pavane. The 4 of us do a pavane, and then we step out and come to character, and you have to dance, and you do your pavane, you step out of character, the handkerchief gets passed around. Well, what I do when I'm teaching, or let's put it this way, when I'm staging a ballet, I give a lot of visual images.
Such as specific.
When I'm teaching Iago, I always do mustache. Iago is the evil man. Evil people always have mustaches. Yeah. I got
Must
one.
pay the rent.
We like
pay
being
the rent.
evil. There's a good thing to it. Desdemona, the innocence. I would find phrases of innocence in poetry, even, or show a painting of what when I look at it as pure innocence. You need visualization to interpret into movement. And it works every time. I have no problem
I used to
with that
watch
at all.
Edward Valello teach. We did a program with him doing just that. He had choreographed the number and he was teaching the number.
Yeah.
And to him, expression, facial expression was as important, he says, as the footwork. It's the whole, the whole.
Absolutely,
Yeah, well, especially in the ballet,
Yeah,
you
they
know,
have
I mean,
to.
because you're telling a story,
That's right.
so you have to, you know, see the story that you're telling. But like you said, you know, there's dance that's just for dance. There's, you know, there's all the tricks and all the, you know, the acrobatics. And what do you think? You showed us a picture before of you with Nigel Lithgow from So You Think You Can Dance. And that's one of my favorite shows. And those dancers are phenomenal. I couldn't do half of the things that those dancers do. That you almost have to be an acrobat now to be considered a good dancer.
Yeah.
Almost. What's your opinion on that? They have some terrific choreography.
Yep.
Amazing dancers. But dance has always been an athletic event.
That's
It's
true.
always been.
It's physical.
It's very physical. But the level that it is now is just really kind of in the stratosphere. What
Well,
do you
this is
think
a
about
new,
that?
younger group of dancers. I mean, I don't want to boast.
No, I think this is very important to hear.
New World has had 4 or 5 finalists, and So You Think You Can Dance. The last one was actually a New World as well.
Gabby?
Gabby,
Yes,
she's
she was great.
Yes, she's fabulous. Well, you know, I won't be modest. New World knows how to train them. We've got the best faculty in the world, and we're a public school, but we have professional dancers in there teaching them, and what a difference that makes always. But let me get back to your question. So You Think You Can Dance and Dancing with the Stars has changed dance in this country. All of a sudden, it's an acceptable medium. When I was growing up, it wasn't. You were weird if you danced. Now, it's even guys now love it, and especially some of the breakdancing stuff, the young guys love doing it. It has really helped dance to a certain point. Now, my negative part of it all. So You Think You Can Dance is great for finding a dancer. Let me put it this way, I'm anti-competition.
Right.
I'm
right.
into art, and it's developing the dance you want. They get their 15 minutes of fame on, but then they have to step out in the real world and become fit into a dance community, not just a company, a community. And therefore they have to be able to do many different styles, many different ways, be able to take direction. But boy, what that show has done for dance has been incredible. I mean, it's really changed the way people looked at dance. And the same thing happened in the late 60s, early 70s when Nureyev was, he changed dance in terms of the ballet world. All of a sudden ballet was important in this country. Brezhnev did the same thing. Well, I think So You Think You Can Dance and Dancing with the Stars has done that as well for a whole new group of younger people that are becoming stars, and wow, they can dance.
Oh boy,
it's
they
unbelievable
can
what
really
they can do now.
dance.
So what do you
think-
advise to somebody starting out today? a kid who wants to dance,
Train.
train, yes,
Yes.
of course.
Yes.
But everything, they have to learn everything today.
You've got to be so well-rounded as a dancer. You've got to be able to do ballet, modern, tap, jazz, Afro, Afro-Caribbean, Brazilian,
Ballroom.
capoeira.
Yeah. Bollywood.
The more you can do, the more employable you become.
Yeah.
Also, the more you can do means the more your body can really adjust to anything that's thrown at you. And new choreographers throw out new stuff all the time. And if you can't
want to
pick it
work
up-
on Broadway, or if you want to work in musical theater, you also nowadays, in your day, you could be a dancer and or a chorus member and or an actor. Now, if you're in a troupe, these days you have to be a dancer, actor, singer, and you have to be relatively proficient.
correct.
There's a
In all of
minimum
it.
level of proficiency in all three, or you're not going to get hired.
Well, there's
Exactly.
generally a very high proficiency in one, and then a middle level,
Yeah.
which is acceptable in the others. But it was interesting in dance in the 50s, 60s, and almost into the 70s, you did not switch styles. You were either a Lamone dancer or a Graham dancer or ballet theater. There was only one person that I worked with in those days. His name was Bill Carter, who would one night be dancing with Martha Graham and the next night with ABT, American Ballet Theater. And he was one of the few that could do it. I choreographed a duet for him and Naomi Zolkin from American Ballet Theater for a gala in New York back in those days. I was just blown away with how talented this guy was. Nowadays, you have to be able to dance across the board.
Yeah.
And even in those days back then, choreographers didn't like it if you went with the other person. There was some resentment.
Jay?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is there enough? Is there enough music to new music to choreograph to? That's an important thing that nobody seems to want to talk about. We know the great classic, the Tchaikovsky ballets, and so on and so forth. But is anybody writing new ballet music that's interesting?
Oh, a lot.
Yeah.
And not
Okay.
just ballet music. When you think of John Cage, I don't think of ballet music.
Yeah.
It's music. I mean, prepared pianos. We did a piece at New World a few years ago called, I think it was called Ocean. No, not Ocean. Anyway, the score was one piece of paper this big, and it was for 3 conch shells filled with water, which you would fill with water, and if you twist it while it's filled with water, they bubbled inside, and you had microphones there. And it's the most incredible piece of music I've ever seen. And the piece was fabulous it was John Cage and Merce Cunningham. So yeah, there's a lot going on with music today, especially with young composers.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, hip hop. I know that a friend of mine manages the biggest dance studio in the United States in New York, and she said the biggest classes they have is hip hop.
Yeah.
Hip hop, hip hop, hip. I mean, they insist if they're really going to be a dancer to take the others too. But so you talk about new. I mean, the music certainly.
Yeah. Well,
What music?
I'm seeing a lot of stuff done to rap these days. So yeah, there's plenty of new things happening in music.
I noticed in your resume on your computer, YouTube or whatever it was, that there was a girl who lost a leg, and you choreographed a ballet. Did I get that
No,
wrong? Something
almost.
like that,
You're
wasn't
close. We had a young dancer, a senior in high school, who lost her foot in a car accident. It was really tragic at the time. But she was determined to still dance, so I supported her through it. I know she had scholarships to many colleges, and they all took it away. How do you train a dancer with one foot? My faculty, I went to them and said, we can't send this girl away. She wants to dance. So my faculty agreed to train her for the next 3 years, because when you're a New World graduate, you graduate with 1 year of college completed. You get 24 college credits plus your AP courses. The next thing you know, you're a sophomore in college. So we took her in as a sophomore. She graduated 3 years later and has been dancing ever since. And it was a challenge for my faculty, but hey, why not? And what made me think of it, there's a dancer in Sweden who lost a leg,
Yes.
who continued dancing with the company. I think it was either Sweden or Denmark, I don't remember, but he did character roles. He could no longer do Giselle and those sort of things, but he still danced.
And you can see YouTube videos of all of these amazing dancers who are disabled
Oh,
in
yeah.
some way or another, and how they overcome that and still are able to practice their craft. I think that's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, there are a lot of companies
Yeah.
that do dance for both mixed, abled, and
And-
disabled.
Karen Peterson.
Karen
that's what her
Peterson,
dad
someone
Karen
here,
Peterson, yes, yes.
Of course, she has them in wheelchairs too.
Yep.
Yes.
And but the rhythm and the grace is still there, even in a wheelchair.
I saw
It's
one
amazing.
recently where, like Cirque du Soleil has those ribbons that people
Yes,
roll.
yes, yes.
Well, the people who are physically challenged were on these ribbons rolling around all over the stage, coming down and going up.
Yes.
It was so beautiful.
Yes,
There's,
Yeah.
we're open to anything in dance.
yeah.
No one should ever be excluded from any art form they want to do.
Exactly.
Well-
And I think that is the mantra for dance, is that anyone is everyone is a dancer.
Yeah.
Even people who are physically challenged,
Yeah.
that everyone can contribute to the art form.
Well, the music world will disagree with me, but I always say the first thing you do when you're born is dance.
Yes.
And they say, no, the first thing you do is scream.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. It's been very
My
entertaining,
pleasure.
very informative. It's my favorite subject other than acting. That's what I wanted to do when I got out of college. I wanted to run and burst onto the New York scene dance, but I ended up being an actor. I want to thank Jay for sitting in for Michael today.
My pleasure.
And thank our viewing audience for being with us this week. We encourage you to patronize the arts in South Florida. And if you'd like to know what's happening, go to floridatheateronstage.com. We want to thank Bill and Iris and you again, and please join us here again next week at Spotlight on the Arts.